Welcome back to Center Stage, Cleveland, Ohio's Beth Israel the West Temple. I'm so honored to have our two guests here today, where we have the Cleveland Food Bank President, Kristin Warzocha, and Mitch Gruber from SCAN, to talk about an issue that we all need to keep in mind, not just now, not just this holiday season, but in the future, to understand what your needs are and how we can help. That's what we're going to talk today, to make sure we can help people be aware of your burdens, of your responsibilities, and how we can make both of your organizations run better. I'll start with you. Mind if I call you Kristin?
No, absolutely. Thanks for having us here today, Peter.
Well, we're very honored to have you both. How long have you worked for the Cleveland Food Bank?
I have worked for the Greater Cleveland Food Bank for almost 26 years.
Wow.
And I've been in my current role for about 11 years.
And that role as president.
President and CEO, that's correct, yes.
How many employees do you have?
We have about 170 full-time employees and 16,000 volunteers.
16,000.
16,000 unique individuals who donate their time every year. So that's in any given year. And together they saved millions of dollars in staff time, which is one of the ways that we stretch our dollars. And when I talk about 16,000 volunteers, what's I think is even more extraordinary is that we are not counting all the volunteers who are out at our partner agencies like SCAN. And that is thousands, if not tens of thousands more. More than 2/3 of our partner agencies are run entirely by volunteers with no paid staff. It is an extraordinary effort and really just an act of love that people put in to make sure that people in their community who are in need of food have it.
So in 11 years in the leadership and 15 or so before being in a position of leadership, have the goals ever changed?
Well, the primary goal is the same, which is to try to make sure that our network of partner agencies and the neighbors they serve have access to the nutritious food they need every day. But how we do that has changed over time as the organization has grown, as our partner network has grown, and as the need for food has grown and changed across our community.
So you just answered the question before I asked it. The need continues to grow.
It does.
Most definitely.
And so let's use that as a segue to a local pantry.
Sure.
Been almost 25th anniversary that your mom started.
Correct.
Of blessed memory. Do you agree that the current need is ever growing all these last 25 years?
We opened up in 2001 in May, and our numbers have increased every year except for 4 years for COVID, where there was a decrease. But once COVID ended, the numbers went back to previous non-COVID years. And as a matter of fact, last month, November, we're open twice a month. The first time we were open in November, we fed 80 families, which was a record. And we ended the month with over 110 families fed, which could have been close to another record.
So let's just dig into a minute what families fed means. Do they just show up at your door and you give them a bag? How does it work? Tell us.
A grocery cart, basically.
Wow.
We feed 6 communities. We service the taxing district of Southwest General Hospital. So we feed Middleburg Heights, Brook Park, Berea, Columbia Station, Strongsville, Olmsted Falls, Olmsted Township. So if you live in that taxing district, we will feed you on a regular basis once a month.
Unquestioned.
Unquestioned. We also never turn anybody away. So we can feed you once a year if you show up and you do not live in that 6 community. We will not turn you away without food. We will feed you. And it is a grocery style pantry. And we will also give you a 211 phone number to call. I tell people all the time, please call your city hall and find out what churches and other hunger pantries are in your neighborhood that will take care of you closer to where you live.
And from your perspective, his organization is hands-on.
Yeah.
There's the shopping cart.
Yeah.
What is the relationship between his group and your big umbrella? How does it
Sure.
work?
The Greater Cleveland Food Bank provides food to any nonprofit organization that provides food to people in need at no cost and agrees to follow pretty basic guidelines. They're civil rights guidelines, which means you need to serve anyone in your community, but some folks have community boundaries. Who needs it? Need to handle the food safely and appropriately. And anyone up to 200% of poverty, which is actually a pretty large percentage of our population, is eligible for food.
And how many of these agencies do you actually, so you deliver food to them?
It depends on the circumstances. We do delivery. About 60% of the food that we distribute is delivered. We have a fleet of 20-plus trucks that are out in the community. We serve 6 counties. So all the way east, Ashtabula, Lake Geauga, Cuyahoga County, for which we're better known, and then south to Ashland and Richland counties.
And there's trucks going to them?
And there are trucks all day, every day, picking up donations and also delivering to our partner agencies. Now, some agencies choose to come to our partner distribution hub on Coit Road in the city of Cleveland to pick up the order that they have placed. We have a whole computerized inventory system.
Wow. My
We
God.
have more than 100 items on our inventory, and mostly in any given day. It's a wide variety of food that's available, and the majority of the food is free. We do some purchasing, and we put that product on our inventory at a cost, but we also give out grants, kind of like a store credit.
Right.
So someone could use their grant to access that purchased food. So many of our agencies never spend a penny at the food bank for quite a lot of food. But, we don't always have everything because we rely on donated food from the state and federal government, as well as purchasing. As I was saying earlier, it's not like a Costco or a Giant Eagle. We do not have unlimited supply. If we have 100 items in our inventory, they could have tens of thousands of items in their inventory. And so sometimes an agency like SCAN might use donated dollars to go to the grocery store to supplement
Right.
or to buy things that aren't available at the food bank.
Yeah, we don't.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry about that. We are one of the agencies that pick up our own food from them. It, quite frankly, saves some money because they do charge to have that truck come out. So if we can do it, we pick up the food. And we do get a grant from the Cleveland Hunger Network that we use as a credit at the Cleveland Food Bank. And that helps a lot. Without that credit, we would not exist. But that credit has also stayed flat, gone down. What you get for that credit over time is always not enough. So we do supplement by taking donations, monetary donations. We take food donations that we check expiration on, put it on our shelves if it's good, and we go shopping to local grocery stores, Giant Eagle, Heinen's, Aldi's, and spend donated money to restock supplies. Like, I will tell you that this week I will be going out and buying 60 jars of peanut butter to get us for Friday's opening.
So what is the local connection between your organization and the aforementioned group of either national chained or local supermarkets?
Oh, yeah.
Is there a connection, an ongoing?
Oh, absolutely.
How does that work? Tell us.
Yes. So we really bring in food from 4 different sources.
Okay.
The first source, and the way the food bank was founded, and many food banks across the country were founded, is working in partnership with food industry partners who had surplus product or product that they were unable to sell. And they connected with folks who were running food programs who didn't have enough food for their clients. And, in our case, a nun named Sister Henrietta and a volunteer named Ann Murata used to take Ann's station wagon down to the Northeast Ohio Produce Terminal every day
Wow.
and solicit surplus product for Sister Henrietta to take back to her church to feed the community.
Wow.
And that is really how it started. And so we still work with more than 200 local and some national food donors. They are distributors, retailers, packagers, farmers, almost anyone who touches food for a living knows that if they have surplus product or product for some reason that they can't sell, it's unmarketable, but still good to eat, they can donate that to the food bank. And so, in any given year, I'd say anywhere between 25 and 50% of our food comes from food donations. But it fluctuates depending on what's available and depending on what's happening in the food industry. Some years there's more surplus than others. We also get food from the state of Ohio. The state of Ohio has a program, it's a line item in the state budget, thankfully, that allows food banks, there are 12 Feeding America food banks in the state of Ohio, to purchase items with state dollars, which are distributed at no charge to our partners. So we use those dollars to purchase a lot of Ohio-grown produce, which is wonderful because it's so healthy, as well as other most needed food items like peanut butter.
Right.
We get food from the federal government. The USDA, the Department of Agriculture, has bought surplus commodities from farmers for decades to support farmers and to support their pricing, to make sure that they can make a living running farms. But once they buy that product, it's distributed through food banks and school breakfast and lunch programs, so that's another source. And then we fill in with purchased product. We try to fill major gaps on our menu. We try to make sure that we've got a consistent amount of food available all year long, because some months might be bigger in terms of donations than others. Some months are bigger in terms of how much fresh produce we can get in than others. And so we purchase food to supplement. And so all four of those different sources help, I'd say, round out our menu and give our agencies, different things that they can choose from.
Right. And you just don't want to, we have clientele that have been clients for, unfortunately, years. And I'm a firm believer, you don't want to give out the same food every time they show up. So it's nice to have an assortment or changing the label, but different brand names. And that also helps that when people donate food on their own to the Scan Pantry, it's different food than they would normally get, or different food than I would massively go out and get, either bought or from the Cleveland Food Bank. And another thing in the last few years that I've noticed is that I will get calls from trucking dispatchers, and they will say that they had a crushed pallet and Acme rejected it. Do I have room? And I've accepted a few loads, and I will also tell them to call the Cleveland Food Bank, because I am sure that they would make room for them for a few pallets, because it's an all or nothing take. So if you have 3 boxes that the truck has to be emptied before it goes to another pickup out, and I'm around, I will take that. If it's 2 pallets of something, I tell them, please call the Cleveland Food Bank, and if they don't have room, they, I'm sure, will be able to tell them where to go, and I think that helps too.
So it sounds like the Cleveland Food Bank, your job is to take it in and send it out.
Yes, absolutely.
And you have to do that in a timely fashion, if we're talking bread or anything else that has a date on it. How good are you at doing that?
Well, I'll tell you what, in the almost 26 years that I've been at the food bank, I've seen a lot of changes, and a lot of them are for the better. I mean, when I started at the food bank, we distributed mostly non-perishable items. It was mostly boxes and cans of non-perishable things, and they could sit on the shelf for a lot longer. But shortly after I started, we merged with another local organization called Food Rescue of Northeast Ohio. They were focused on rescuing perishable product. And so we came together, formed, a combined organization, and suddenly we were in the produce business.
Wow.
And today,
Wow.
more than 2/3 of what we distribute is perishable product. And we do have to turn that product really quickly. Our new partner distribution hub on Coit Road is, it's hundreds of thousands of square feet. It's almost 200,000 square feet. And a whole lot of that is an enormous cold temperature dock, a big freezer, a cooler, another cold temperature space, because we want to keep all of that product at the right temperature, and we want to turn it around as quickly as we can. And we work hard at it, but it is imperfect. If we get a pallet of potatoes in, And we look at the bin, it comes in a huge bin, or it might come in a bunch of cases. And we look at the product on top, and the product on top looks fabulous. But it was donated because it's getting close to its sell-by date.
Right.
You know, it's possible we're going to ship that whole bin out to an agency because the product on top looks fabulous. And when you get down to the bottom, it's not so great. And, you know, we always feel really badly about that. We'll ask an agency to send it back. We'll go back out and pick it up. Or, you know, and sometimes volunteers need to kind of sort through it. You know, if I'm shopping at Giant Eagle or I'm shopping at Heinen's, both of whom are donors, you know, they've got a person in the produce section who's opening every case and putting everything that looks great on the shelf.
Yes.
Right? When we're sending out in a 2,000-pound tote, if there's not a volunteer who's looking at every piece and putting it out, it's not always perfect. And so we try to take a good look. We try to take things back when they're not ideal. But it is the more the more perishable food we distribute, which is so healthy and so important, you know, there's going to be a little scrap in the process.
So you just mentioned a word that I had written down. I wanted to make sure I ask. And it was mentioned, I think, by both of you at least once now. Mm-hmm. And that is the health issue that we're not giving out sugar frosted flakes. And maybe you are, I don't know. But can we talk a bit about what the goal would be on the healthy diet and whether you think you both are meeting it?
Do you want to take that one, or you want me to start?
I can start on that one.
All
I
right.
mean, our scan pantry is 3 days per individual per family of food a month. It's an emergency style pantry, and we do a wide variety. We'll make sure there's a wide variety. You do get cereal. Now, some of the cereal does have some sugar on it, but it's overall probably more healthy than if you would having your kids go select it at the grocery store. So let's be fair. We give out soups, vegetables, fruit, pasta, sauces, and some refrigerated or frozen goods. I'm in partnership with a few organizations that allow me to give out some soups, some cooked chicken, and because they are not expired, but they are past their shelf life that they could send to a retailer. I am fortunate to be able to secure that product. But we also, our pantry believes that if it's expired, it gets thrown away because it's a perception. If you're hungry and you're hurting for food, we don't want you to come to the scan pantry and think that everything you're getting is expired. So we make sure that it's not expired. So we'll go through. If the can is dented, it gets tossed because it's a perception of thing. Our volunteers, I've taught them, told them, if I wouldn't eat it, let's not give it out. And on some of those, we let our volunteers taste some of the items that are like you don't find in the grocery store, or what's this? So we'll taste the different brand of water or flavored water, while we're working. So they have an understanding of what we're also giving out. So it's not, we don't want to say, we're not giving out unnutritional food. We're giving out nutritional food. And sometimes it's getting the volunteers to taste it and go, yeah, this is worth giving out.
And what do you think, Kristin?
So we set a goal every year that more than 75% of what we distribute will be rated as highly nutritious. And we actually have a rating system that rates every product that comes into the food bank. It's not 100%, it's 75%, but we feel pretty good about that. And I'll tell you why. The normal American diet, folks, what people eat is just over 50% highly nutritious.
Look at that.
And, I guess I'm kind of a believer, everything in moderation.
Okay.
I will never, ever forget years ago, probably 15 years ago, I was out at a produce distribution. We do large scale produce distributions in low income neighborhoods. Sometimes the agency isn't big enough to distribute a lot of fresh produce because it takes coolers, right? And so we'll literally find a partner, do it in the parking lot. And I was down in, I think, Ashland County. And there was a huge line, and they were waiting for this produce distribution. Our truck had unloaded all these different pallets of fresh produce, and we were always talking about the nutritional value of the product. Well, in addition to all of these different pallets of fresh produce, there was a pallet of bakery that we had picked up. And it was from a superstore that had donated this product. It was rescued product. So it was muffins, and it was cupcakes, and there were some cakes on top, right? I mean, it looked delicious. But I was thinking, well, now wait a minute. This is supposed to be a produce distribution. Should we really be bringing along a pallet of cakes and cupcakes and cookies, right? And I was kind of thinking about this quietly, thank goodness. And I saw the woman who ran the distribution, who was not with the food bank. She was the local volunteer, and she shouted to everyone in line, raise your hand if someone in your family has a birthday this week.
Oh, that's ingenious.
And a bunch of hands went up, and then she said, okay, raise your hand if it's within the last 3 days. Raise your hand. She was trying to narrow the pool to match the number of cakes in the bin, right?
Wow.
And finally she says, raise your hand if there's a birthday today. And I happened to be standing nearby, and a woman had her hand up. And so the woman in charge of the distribution carries over this cake. And she said, would you like to have this cake for the birthday? And the woman in line said, it's my son's 8-year-old birthday, and I had no cake for him. And I thought, you know what? Shame on me. If there's cake available in moderation, right, that could be very special for someone. And so the majority of what we distribute is very nutritious, and we feel good about that. But we also take in donations that people might really enjoy.
And you need that because, let's face it, we all eat potato chips and we all have snacks. These people that come to the pantry are missing that. Yeah. And if we can supply that to them, if we're not filling up a cart with just cookies, we're doing the whole balance. So if you get a cake, we work with a Giant Eagle that will donate. I call it the day-old bakery program. We go pick it up the day before the pantry, and there's bread, there's cake, there's cookies. But that's important because there are birthdays, there are special occasions.
Wow. You both have, I didn't know when during this talk it would come to me to remind the two of you of the amazing work that you both do. We shouldn't just be talking about the description of what you do. It should be to understand that you're both putting your shoulders back, but how good it must feel. Everybody has a job that they've done for so many years in this economy of ours, but your two jobs involve feeding those without the economic power to feed themselves.
Right, we're proud to say that since 2001, Scan Pantry being only open 2 days a month have fed over 73,000 people, enough to fill Cleveland Browns Stadium.
And your organization,
Isn't that great?
100 people and 16,000 people, as much as I know how long and how hard you work, you got to come home thinking, wow, we fed some people today who don't have the economic power to feed themselves.
It is a privilege to do the work that we do. In my view, it's a privilege to work at the food bank in any role, frankly. But certainly, I feel the responsibility of the role that I'm in, and I've stuck with it for 26 years because it is such good work. And even on hard days, we all have hard days. You do come home knowing that someone benefited from your work. It is making a difference every day for local seniors and children and families right here in our own community. It's meaningful and important.
So the term, let's talk one about the building on the Shoreway.
Sure.
What goes on in the building on the Shoreway?
Well, we have two buildings close to the Shoreway now.
Okay.
Both in the Collinwood Yards neighborhood.
On the south side?
Yes.
Right?
So the building at South Waterloo, which is the one that is visible from the Shoreway, started out as our partner distribution hub. It was our partner distribution hub for about 20 years, and then we started to outgrow it. And when the pandemic hit, we just completely didn't have the room that we needed. And we'd already kind of started expansion plans. And so we built a new, larger partner distribution hub on Coit Avenue. It's 197,000 square feet. It's where the food from the food industry comes in. It kind of looks like, people walk in all the time and say it looks like a Costco.
Okay.
It's a huge distribution facility with dry storage, cold storage. We have a production kitchen. where volunteers and staff make meals for senior facilities, for Meals on Wheels programs, senior congregate feeding sites, as well as children's programs to provide free meals after school and in the summer for low-income kids. And a lot of volunteers work at our partner distribution hub. So the fact that it is bigger and has more cold storage space really allows us to take in as much donated food as available, and in really challenging times with community support to buy even more food. Last year we distributed 53 million pounds of food through that facility.
53 million. Okay,
53 million.
That's 1 million pounds a week.
Yes, 53 million pounds of food last year.
And not everybody's fed in this community.
You know, we worked hard to try to make sure that our partners don't run out of food, but there's a whole lot of need. There is so much need, and I don't believe we hit it all.
There's need that people are ashamed to come to the food pantry.
Has it always been that way for both of you?
Yeah, you can tell when you feed someone that doesn't want to be there, and you can tell when you're feeding people that have made it part of their routine, which is still understood because I've spent a lot of time. Our volunteer base has been pretty consistent, so it's not a lot of training because they run with or without me, which is important because I'm not there every day that we're open because I have a full-time job on top of this. And I tell them, there's a story. I said, don't judge the car that pulls up because that person might have just bought that car 6 months ago. It could be a family of 4, one income earner making 6 figures, and last week he was let go. They're not selling the car right away, but now they qualify. So you can't judge the car, and you don't judge the people. And we are very specific. You've heard me say this in this talk. I refer to the people that visit the hunger pantry as clients.
So the rural communities, everybody in this room at least lives in a city, in a community. Can you describe those people's economic issues? Do you know what those economic issues are?
Absolutely. The economic issues are very similar.
They are similar.
You know, we serve Ashtabula County, which is one of the poorest counties in the state of Ohio. People are very spread out in Ashtabula County. And frankly, we're serving a lot of seniors like we are in Cuyahoga County, and we're serving a lot of working poor families like we are in Cuyahoga County. I think one of the things that has happened over the years is that the costs of living have gone up. I mean, particularly in the last 5 years. Food's up 25%, rent is up about the same. And I saw a study by PNC Bank that came out a couple months ago. It said 67% of American households are living paycheck to paycheck. And that's across the country. That's in every county, whether it's rural or urban. And so often we end up serving a family that is in temporary need because there was an emergency. Someone lost their job, someone had their hours cut, or there was some other sort of emergency. I remember I was talking to a neighbor once, client, who had never been in before, and she'd come in because she was helping raise her grandchildren, and it was the summertime, and her grandson had thrown a baseball through her front window. Unintentionally. It was an accident. Right. It was an accident, you know. The kids were playing in the yard, and she had to get her window fixed. And she usually could make ends meet, but she couldn't afford to get her window fixed and also to buy all the food that she needed, especially with her grandkids staying with her. And so oftentimes there is an emergency that brings someone in, and sometimes people don't need help for very long.
Or like we'll see it because we track as part of justifying our grant money. Everybody is tracked. And you can see it. They haven't visited for 6 months. So they might have gotten employment. They might have not wanted to show up. So you see that, and then you see the regular people also. And then you begin to worry when the regular people don't show up. Like, I hope they're okay. Because we're not getting phone numbers. We're just getting basic information. So we cannot do a wellness check. So, but you do worry because you are volunteers
Yeah.
get to know our clients.
Yeah.
They get to know the ones that bring their dogs to the pantry. So we have a box of Milk-Bone dog biscuits to walk out to the cars, because to make it efficient, we're in an 800 square foot facility, so we don't have a lot of room. COVID helped drive the fact that we didn't want the clientele going into the pantry. So we have them pull up. They have a card that scan issues, so it's not even a government-issued ID. Once you register for your year, you get a card that has your name, address, how many people in your family, so we can enter that information later. And that way also, if you're sick and your neighbor's willing to go get the food for you, you're not giving them government-issued ID, you're giving them the scan card.
Wow.
And,
That's nice.
and they show up and they're like, I'm picking up for so-and-so. We have their information. It is their proxy to pick up. And we're able to fill them, and then they can drop off their food to their neighbor that had car trouble or had a job all of a sudden and needed to go to work, but still needed the assistance until
Yes.
they can build their
So-
nest egg.
Sound familiar, Kristen?
Yep. It does, although the scan card is a very good idea, and most agencies don't have that.
And my volunteers thought about it. They were
Yeah.
like, what happens if they don't have ID? We have to spend time digging through the cards and computer. And I'm like, let's come up with something. And we did, and it's,
Yeah,
they love it.
yeah. And you asked me earlier what happens on the Shoreway, and this is a good time to talk about that. So when we moved into our new facility, built it, and moved into that larger space, we renovated the space on the Shoreway. And it is now our community resource center. The Collinwood, kind of Euclid area was an underserved community. There are a lot of people who are income eligible for food, again, many seniors, a lot of working families. And while there are some very good small agencies, there were not enough to meet the need
Right there.
right there. And so we renovated that facility and we turned it into a pretty special place. Not only do we have also a shopping style pantry, a best practice, that looks like a grocery store. Thankfully, we've got more square footage than Scan. But we also have 17 other nonprofit partners on site
Oh, my gosh.
to help address other
Wow,
needs
that's
that
ingenious.
clients may bring in. And so, you know, the vision there is to not only address hunger today by trying to connect people to healthy food and food that they need that they can choose, similar to Scan, but also as needed to connect people to other services on site to address some of the underlying
Wow.
drivers of food insecurity. And so, you know, we've been open for about 2 years at that facility. And we've been off to an amazing start. And I recently was talking with a neighbor, a client, whose name is James. We've gotten to know each other pretty well. Sometimes between meetings, if I have a little extra time, I'll go volunteer
You have extra time?
in the market. Every once in a while, between meetings, I do. And I was helping James shop one day in our market. And he told me his entire story, which is absolutely fascinating. So he's a veteran. He's in his 60s. He spent his entire career as a long-haul truck driver. He was diagnosed with sleep apnea, and he could no longer drive a truck. He lost his certification.
Wow.
And he became unemployed after decades of working very hard. And it wasn't long before he found himself in financial need. What really impressed me about James was that he had decided to go back to school in his 60s to broadcast school.
Oh my
He was
gosh.
taking the bus 3 hours a day each way. And he was telling me he had just graduated, and so he was looking for a new position. But until he finds the next position, whatever that may be, right, whether it's in broadcasting or something else, he was in need of help. And so, you know, in his 60s, he came to our market. And, you know, it's just kind of another example of someone who maybe didn't think that they would need emergency food
Yes.
or has needed it rarely over time, but happens
Wow.
to need it right now. And so, you know, we were able to not only provide food, but as we've gotten to know him, we've helped him apply for SNAP, so he now gets SNAP benefits. We connected him to Towards Employment, which is a job training program on site. So we went through their job orientation, kind of learning work skills and all sorts of other things. They're helping him look for a job, right? And all of that could happen in one location, which is wonderful.
Let's take a moment to segue. SNAP. What does SNAP stand for?
You can start with that.
It's a supplemental nutrition assistance program. It used to be called food stamps. And so a lot of people still know it as food stamps.
And it's a federal program?
It's a federal program.
And is it-
It's administered by the states.
Okay.
And it used to be that there were actual stamps that people received, paper stamps that they
Oh,
took
is
and
that
kind of
right?
turned in at the grocery store.
Okay.
Because it gives people a benefit every month that they can use to access food. They can't use it on paper products, they can't use it on toiletry items, they can't use it on beer or wine or cigarettes,
Okay.
but they can use it to access food. Now, it's been updated over the years, and so now everyone has an EBT card. And
Okay.
as long as you're income eligible, and you do have to report on a somewhat regular basis that you're still eligible, every month your card should be loaded by your state, and you will have some dollars that you can spend at the grocery store. On average, it's $6 per person in your household per day. So it's not necessarily, I mean, as we think about food costs today, you know, if I had $6 to spend today on food for 3 meals, things would probably be tight.
say
Most
the
people
least.
can't make it last all month long, and so they may use some of their other dollars, right, because they've got some other income stream, or they go to a food pantry like Scan,
Yes?
right, when their SNAP runs out, or they find another way to put food on the table. But it is our country's first line of defense in the fight against hunger. It's absolutely critical, and 255,000 people in our 6-county service area receive SNAP benefits in a
250,000 people.
typical month. That is correct.
And do we know whether those numbers are historically consistent, growing, lessening? One of those three got to be
In
right.
November, we can tell you that the numbers might be consistent, but the need and the scare of not having SNAP money, remember I work full-time. The pantry is only open twice a month, and we get a delivery on one of the Wednesdays before we're open. So actually, full volunteers in the building 3 days a week. That's why the Scan Hunger Pantry phone number is forwarded to my cell phone. So I will pick up any phone number that comes across my cell, even no matter what time, no matter if I'm in my other job. But I can tell you that during the month of November, I was receiving 3 to 5 calls daily saying that they were SNAP members and that they were worried, are they eligible to come to the food pantry? And the answer was yes. And they were given the time and the address and what they needed to bring to be signed up. And like I said, I said this earlier, in November, we hit a record high. We're open the 2nd and 4th Tuesday of the month. In November and December, it's the 2nd and 3rd because of the holiday. We change our hours in November and December to feed you before Thanksgiving and to feed you before Christmas. So we change it. It's published. It's on a website. It's with the Hunger Network. But that first Tuesday that we were open, the 2nd Tuesday of November, was 80 families.
And so that
That's about
it presents
that's 20 more than we normally do.
it presents a story that's quite grim.
Mm-hmm.
And all the work that's out there that apparently will continue to need to be done tomorrow. Where do you guys both find the energy? Because you've got to have it's humanly required that there be some optimistic window. There's some light at the end of that tunnel. Do you find that in your jobs?
There's a saying that my mom had, and I don't think either of us will ever be around when the saying comes through. My mom used to end all of her speeches, even at temple, at churches that she would go to, where she would like to stand up here one day and say, I am officially closing the Scan Hunger Pantry. Not because I'm out of food, but because there is no need to keep it open. Unfortunately, the numbers are showing different.
Yeah.
And that is a dream that is very, very far down that road.
And Kristin, you feel the same way?
Yeah, unfortunately, I think I do. I mean, I have said many times in my career, there's nothing I'd like better for there to not be a need for a food bank or for our partners. But unfortunately, it does feel as though the need is growing every year.
Growing.
And absolutely growing. And it's critical, I think, that the food bank be available, that all of our partner agencies be available to do whatever it is we can do. And you know, the good news, I am also an optimist. I generally see the glass is half full. The good news is that we live in a generous community of people who want to help, right? Who want to make sure that their neighbors have enough
I'm glad
food
you said
to eat.
that. Wonderful.
And we see that goodness every day. You know, we see it in the folks who come to volunteer, like Mitch does. We see it in the folks who make financial contributions, like those to Scan. And that is the good news. It's the way the community comes together to help. But I will tell you, regardless of how generous the community is, nonprofits can not make up for a program like SNAP. For every one meal that every food bank in the country together provides, all of us together and all of our partner agencies together, SNAP provides 9. We are filling in gaps. And so when there are changes in SNAP, when there's a reduction in SNAP funding, or a pause in SNAP benefits, which we saw for the first time ever in November during the government shutdown, it is an extraordinary challenge. And that is why that program is so important.
So let's change the segue again to fundraising. Just the numbers alone, how much of your time is spent searching for funds? Not just to maintain, but to grow your program.
Well, we're lucky. We've got a large organization and a large staff, and that includes a fundraising team, and they are very talented. I do, of course, support their work, and there are donors that I meet with on a regular basis. I'd say that probably a quarter of my time is spent on fundraising.
And as an organization, is that always the number one priority to continue to fundraise?
It's not the number one priority, but it is the case that 2/3 of our budget, 2/3 of our revenue comes from fundraising. And
That's what I was
so it
looking-
is
wow.
critically important to what we do.
2/3.
Yeah, yes.
And your budget doesn't go down because there's not enough money. You just need the money to cover the budget.
Right, and as costs go up, right, not only do our neighbors feel the pinch, not only do our partners feel the pinch,
Right.
but we do too, right? The costs of all the food we're buying are going up, and if we're subsidizing that, which oftentimes we do by putting it on our inventory for free or by giving out grants, right, the dollars don't go as far as they used to, and that's a challenge.
And are your fundraising efforts generally in a city and a community this large local? Or are you going on the more of a national, or what scheme do you use?
So we fundraise in the counties where we distribute food, because we're part of a wonderful large network. We're a separate nonprofit. We have our own board, our own 501c3 status. But we know that there's a great food bank down in Akron, right? And a food bank in Lorraine County that serves Lorraine County and counties
Medina.
west. And yep, one in Medina. So, I mean, there are food banks that serve every county in the state of Ohio. So we fundraise in our 6-county service area.
You do.
Which I think makes sense, right? In the counties where we distribute the food. That's where we focus.
And is it public knowledge of who these people are and these companies are? Can you tell us who they are?
Sure. I mean, we've got some extraordinary food and financial donors. I mean, in any given year, our largest food donors are very likely to be Nestle, because they've got this wonderful plant out in Solon.
Yeah.
So if they've got surplus food or food with they're fabulous. They don't make a lot of mistakes, but they distribute tons of food. And so every once in a while, if something goes
Wow.
just a little bit wrong, they've got extraordinary quality control standards. And we could see even a whole truckload of product from Nestle.
Wow.
Giant Eagle is an extraordinary food donor. They donate food from their main warehouse. They donate food from their stores, so we go to just about every Giant Eagle
Really?
store, some of them 3 times a week, depending on
Wow.
how large the store is to pick up food. So those are some of our larger food donors. In terms of financial donors, I think those feel like they change more often, But I'll tell you, recently, the Cleveland Clinic has made a real commitment to trying to address hunger because they understand the health concerns of food insecure people. You know, they
Wow.
know that someone who's food insecure is much more likely to have a chronic health condition, is going to struggle to recover from surgery or from an incident. And so they have been extraordinarily generous to the food bank. At the beginning of November, they made a $1 million gift
Oh my
to help us buy food and make it available to our agency network at no cost,
Wow.
because we were also worried about the increased demand because
Nice.
the federal government shut down.
And
Yeah.
are you confident that that source will continue? in
They
the
have been
future?
generous for the last couple of years. I mean, sometimes the amounts change depending on who the donor is and, you know,
Yeah.
what's happening. That's only one
Wow.
wonderful example. But, you know, we have donors that we're talking with all the time year round.
Now, how about you, Mitch? Do you fundraise independent of the people on the Shoreway, for lack of a better term?
Well, since being around for 20-plus years, we have a lot of individual donors, anywhere from $10 to whatever. Not a lot of corporation donors yet. It takes time to develop those relationships. But I would like to say that a lot of our individual donors do monthly donations, like right out of their bank account or out of their 401k, regularly or quarterly. I do a big speech once a year for Beth Israel, the West Side Temple.
Yes, you do.
And I fill up my SUV with donated canned food and pasta
Yeah.
and cereals
That's awesome.
for the new year, which helps tremendously. Last year, the Berea Post Office, the Strongsville Post Office did food drives, and I had that donation, which was multiple pickup trucks worth of food.
Wow. Tell us what you do for a living, by the way.
I am a senior buyer for Sandridge Food Corporation.
Food.
Sandridge
How
Crafted
did that
Food.
happen? How did your mom get that so perfect?
It hasn't always been. It's only been the last 12 years in January.
But so you work in food 24 hours a day then?
Yes, I do.
And as you explained to me.
And I'm a
when I-
buyer.
That's what
so
I mean.
buy food.
Right.
So you explained it to me when I stopped by one day, that you have this incredible access to food that you can actually bring to your place and give out because of your job.
Luckily, I have a great relationship with the Sandridge family and have developed a program of basically it's food that big retailers is past their shelf life, but is not expired. So it has days left on it, but if we ship it to a big box store, it doesn't meet their standards for how long it can sit on their shelves. And if there's availability, I take what I need that I can get out to the community,
Isn't that something?
and it gives our clients a little bit different types of food.
Wonderful.
But I have to be careful with that because it's a privilege, a part of my working relationship with
Yeah.
that company. But I've also developed some relationships just recently with Schwabels in Strongsville. They are donating twice a month to the Scan Pantry, and that's just started in November, to tell you the truth. I work with Giant Eagle in Brunswick, which is, it sounds bad, but it's out of our area, but it's a lot of these grocery stores that are local there's only so many days of the week. And there's a lot of churches and pantries that are doing the same thing I'm doing and asking for day-old bread or produce. Produce is kind of tough, but day-old pastries and breads. So Giant Eagle in Brunswick has been very supportive, and I am trying to work with one other grocery chain so I can move closer and keep it in to the communities that I work at.
Is there always product available? So the logistics is the issue?
No.
Or is it just there's not enough product
You-
regardless of the logistics?
We've talked about this in this past hour, that it's a ebb and flow thing. Like, we
Yeah.
could show up at the Giant Eagle and get a half a grocery cart, and then the next time show up and have 2 grocery carts full.
Is that what you think as well?
Yes, it's inconsistent. You
It is
know,
inconsistent.
usually when food comes in from the food industry, there are exceptions, but it's because of an error, right?
Because of,
It's because of some sort of error.
You
You know,
overmade
there's-
product.
Yeah, there's surplus product. They don't want to have surplus product, right? Or
It didn't taste
there's an
just
ordering
right.
issue, right? They ordered too much and they can't sell it all, right? Or something happened with the packaging. We've seen that. Or some other sort of issue. And so frankly, they're trying to manage those issues. It's not in their own best interest to have this surplus product sitting around, but they know that if they do, they can give it to a food bank or give it to a food pantry and it will go to good use. You know, thankfully, out there in the hundreds of donors we work with, there are little things that go wrong all the time. But thankfully, but it does ebb and flow. I mean, I still remember very early in the pandemic, you know, we're talking March and April of 2020. You know, there was a stay-at-home order. Restaurants closed. People weren't going out to eat. They really weren't going out hardly at all. But they were all racing to the supermarket to buy as much food as they could, as much as they could afford, and a lot of people were stockpiling food.
yes.
And so what we saw was that the amount of donated food to the food bank plummeted at a time that the need for food skyrocketed because
Wow.
people were losing jobs during that period. And it was a real challenge. That was when we really started turning to the community for financial support and buying product in earnest, because we were terrified that we would run out. Now, thank God, the community stepped up and we were able to use our relationships to get product in from distributors. But, you know,
The need during that time changed too. I've said this before. We're a 3-day
Yeah,
emergency
Yeah.
supplemental,
yeah.
get you on your feet, to get you looking. But during the pandemic, we were asked to take that 3 to 5, then down the road take that 3 to 7, then take that 7 to 10.
Wow.
And we were, you know, then when you go back to giving out 3 days worth of food, my volunteers are like, we're not giving out anything. I'm like, relax, remember that we were giving out 10. 3 is a big difference.
Yeah.
We're following guidelines so we can feed everybody that shows up. And in 21 years, we've never had someone show up that we couldn't give food to. A well-rounded
it's wonderful.
balance of food. Now, we've walked the pantry after we closed the doors and said we had a lot of work to do for the next 2 weeks to get us to where we need to be. But we've never turned anybody away.
And is it distinctly tied to economic, in a broad sense of the word? When, you know, when the unemployment is this and the unemployment is that, and the interest rates are high, interest rates are low. Can you draw that paradigm?
No. I mean, because we both
No.
sat here and have said that the demand hasn't dropped from year to year in the past,
Yeah,
beside the pandemic, where it did drop because people were afraid to come out of their house or they weren't driving. And when you're dealing with a lot of seniors, which is probably 60% of my clientele, and that number's not changing.
wow.
So my number isn't dropping. They're over year to year, my number
Yeah,
goes up a
go
little
up.
bit.
And what about you, Kristin?
Yeah, I mean, I think there are a number of factors at play. You know, certainly, like at the beginning of the pandemic, a lot of folks lost jobs and the need went up, right? During the recent federal government shutdown, a lot of federal workers weren't getting paid. Many of them missed 3 paychecks. You know, when the majority of the population's living paycheck to paycheck, missing 3 paychecks in a row becomes a pretty big problem. So we saw the numbers of people in need go up even before SNAP benefits were put on hold. So I do think that matters. But the other thing that matters is inflation, is costs of living, and other societal factors. You know, people are living longer.
Oh
They're
my
living
gosh.
longer.
I didn't even think of that.
And They are doing everything in their power to age at home. And in many cases, they're running out of money. They are outliving their savings. And so people who worked their whole life, thought they were set for retirement, at some point find themselves in a position where they need community support putting food on the table. And that is a challenge. I mean, I think we've served more seniors every year since I started at the food bank.
Yeah.
And looking forward, are you of the opinion that you will be able to meet the needs going forward? And even before you answer that question, how much time do you spend thinking about that question?
Oh, I'll let her think about that. But,
Yeah.
because my volunteers, they're great, and they worry just like I do. And they can see a full pantry that it is today and know that Friday it's not. But I am grateful that I've been able to save money. Even as a 501c3, you do not have to spend every dollar that you get at the end of the year. That is not what tax-free means. That is not what a charitable company means. But I've been able to bankroll and grow or stay even or dip into savings, and we're comfortable for the next few years.
And how about you, Kristin?
We spent much of 2025 doing a new strategic plan and also a scenario plan. And as part of that planning process, we decided and made clear to ourselves and to our community and to our partners that, we feel our job is to be a consistent source of food support even in challenging times. And so we are working to make sure, 2 years ago we distributed 54.5 million pounds of food. This year there were some reductions in public food programs and nutrition programs. So we got less food from the state of Ohio and less food from the federal government, and we distributed about 53 million pounds of food. It went down a little bit, which we don't like. Our goal this year is to get back up and beyond 54.5 million, and we will do that by buying food and putting it on our inventory at no cost for our partner agencies through fundraising, because we want to make sure that we have as much food available as possible, and hope we can even go beyond that. I mean, we are serving more people now than we did during the pandemic.
The term
Definitely.
leadership and the term leader, the noun leader, takes very special people with the intelligence to think forward, think backwards, make the right decisions. And the community needs to know how honored we are to have you two right in the heart of the most human of all issues, those without the independent financial needs to put food on the table. And on behalf of everybody that I know, and on behalf of everybody that's watching, the thank you that we owe you is larger than my just two words, thank you. It is to understand that we all thank you for the work that you do on a daily basis to serve those who are in need.
And it's a partnership. Without the Cleveland Food Bank, without Kristin,
Yeah.
I don't last as long.
Well, and vice versa,
And then she can't have everybody come up into the Cleveland Food Bank to pick up their food.
Yeah.
So it is a truly
It's a wonderful
And,
partnership.
and the last thing I want to say is, an underlying reason to do this is to consider donating your time, your money, your efforts, your intelligence. Just try to think about donating, not just now, but in the near future, to help them do their jobs better. It's the great human ability that we have to help. And we have to keep that in mind. Everybody who's watching and everybody who thinks about how hard you two work, if we can make their job easier, we really, truly need to do so.
Thanks, Peter.
And thank you very much for all your time today and for your time and everything you do to make so many people's lives just a half an inch easier that some of us don't consider on a daily basis like you do. Thank you very much for your time.
Thanks for the opportunity.